It's the lights.
If we can get an audience to get on the chat.
If they can leave in the comments.
3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon. Today is May the 19th, and I'm Dave Thompson. I'm the Education Director for the ACE Academy of Cleaning Excellence and President of the Green Clean Institute. And if you haven't been keeping up with this, I want to let you know this is our 21st show of the year. So if you are striving to be progressive, looking for knowledge about all things positive and advancing healthy best practices, then you're watching the right show. This afternoon, my guest speaker is going to be talking to us about that one area of the building that gets 50% of the complaints from the building occupants, but it only is 5% of the total cleanable square feet of a building. So come back after this message and we'll learn more.
Live from Orlando, Florida, and the ACE Learning Center at Gym Supply. It's Beyond Clean with Dave, a weekly broadcast for professionals in environmental health services around the world. Your host is David Thompson, Director of Education for Gym Supply, and his mantra is, I am a janitor and I save lives. And now let's listen to Beyond Clean with Dave and today's guest at the ACE Learning Center in sunny downtown Orlando. Live from Orlando, Florida, and the ACE Learning Center at...
There are 3 words on which I focus on each and every Friday afternoon. Those 3 words, healthy, positive, and proactive. Now, before I get into today's show, we have a live chat, as we always do. If you're watching on YouTube, it's just to the right, and in that comment section, leave a question or a concern that you have. If you're watching on our recorded, post them in the video comments in our video section. Now, while you may know our regular guest speaker, you know that he's going to be here talking to us about some kind of a bug, a germ, or a nasty on something. And today he wants to talk about that one small area of the building from which so many of us know we've always dealt with all these issues. We continue to. Darrell, I know where you're talking, but tell the people that haven't heard you who you are, why you're here, and what we're talking about today.
Thank you, Dave. I'm Darrell Hicks, St. Louis, Missouri. But Dave and I have been knowing each other for a while. But anyway, I have 34 years of experience in cleaning hospitals and disinfecting. And I even wrote a little book called Infection Prevention for Dummies that you may have heard about. But I'm glad to be here and help educate folks about the necessity of providing safe, clean, and disinfected surfaces. And the restroom is one of those that everyone, either, if it's nice, they're more likely not to say anything, but if they're dirty, you'll get comments.
Oh, yeah.
And or complaints. And they do make up probably 50% of the complaints that you get, because people are pretty good judges of clean restrooms. And so they will tell you when they're not clean. But, you talked about those 3 words earlier, Dave. Well, the 2 items that are the essential ingredients in cleaning and disinfecting, one is the proper pH, and that's around neutral of 7. Right. But it's also about soil removal, and we'll talk about both of them here today. But soil removal, especially in restrooms, is one of the essential task that everyone is faced with, having the right chemicals and the right processes, and then educating and training your staff to a standard that they can always repeat those same excellent results in restroom cleaning.
And I think what you mentioned there, Darrell, is this is a process. It's not just cleaning a bathroom. It's not disinfecting. We want to process. And I think you've mentioned this before, and I want to bring this up early in today's show. It's processing that bathroom. You can't do just one or the other, and that's that pH and physical removal. You have to have both.
Right. And the process is the right products, the right process, and the right education and training for your employees. But every occupant or every patron of your restrooms, they have a right to certain things, and I call them the Bill of Rights for restrooms. But one is not to be grossed out. And
okay, now wait a minute. I didn't know there was a Bill of Rights for restrooms, and probably everybody else is saying the same thing. And here's the other thing. If there is one, which this is the first time I've heard of that, I would say that being not grossed out is probably number one on my list.
That's why I put it up there at number one.
Yeah, you did good, Darrell. You did good. Let's go on.
Okay, and they have a right to handicap accessibility.
Correct.
And it's a federal law that your restrooms have to be ADA compliant.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't forget those handicapped patrons and provide handicap accessibilities, throughout your restroom. But another one is to be well lighted. Dark, dingy corners don't bode well for very good cleaning, effective cleaning and disinfecting, processing of that stall. So
Right.
having bright lights, you don't want your employees using flashlights to clean your restrooms.
Well, they're not going to carry a flashlight. I've never seen that on a cleaning cart. So I think you're right. And I don't want to see them with a headlamp on their on their head now. So yeah, well lighted. I agree with you. So
No, we do.
okay, so go on. I mean, we're probably talking about some other issues too, because well lighted, handicapped accessible, not being grossed, but there's got to be some other things in a bathroom that's going to be on your Bill of Rights.
Yeah, I think one of them is a clean, fresh smelling restroom. And people say, well, what should that smell like? My former boss of mine, whenever we were talking about cleaning and odor control, he said, well, I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I'll know it when I see it and when I smell it. And,
okay, so what does a clean, fresh smelling urinal or toilet or bathroom smell like? I mean, I smell a lot of them. I'm not going to tell you it's clean and fresh.
No, and usually those heavy deodorizers, when you're not even in the restroom and you're still 6 to 10 feet away and you smell this heavy deodorizer, it could be pina colada or it could be cherry. The cherry seems to be one of the favorites, but it's usually masking odor or the odors in a restroom, and that odor is usually caused by soil.
Yeah,
Gross.
whenever you smell that in the hallway, you better just turn around and leave because you don't want to go in there anyway.
Right. And it always makes me curious because that, like, if you're in a restaurant and that the restaurant employees back in the kitchen use that same restroom.
Oh.
So, you're thinking about the quality of the food, and like you said, you might as well just walk out of the restaurant and go somewhere else because
okay, we're not here to beat up on restaurants. I mean, that's not our focus, but hey, we all have been there and seen it. So if you usually get that, what's the next thing you usually see that's on your Bill of Rights?
It's graffiti. And you'll see it in the stalls, you'll see it on walls, on mirrors, on doors, and this is something that you really need to stay on top of and remove it daily. Don't allow, you're going to have some good graffiti remover products for your staff, but magic marker, ink pens, those sorts of things can and should be removed daily so that another person doesn't come along and feel like they have to comment on what the previous person left on the stall door.
Now, everybody's either an author or an artist, and that's where they think that they have to do it. So if one is there, everybody's got to one-up them.
Right. So next on the Bill of Rights is to have adequate supplies. And, I had to battle a boss before that wouldn't allow me to put jumbo tissue in some of our high traffic, like main lobby restrooms. And he said, my fear is that if you have jumbo tissue, jumbo paper towels, that your employees, your staff won't be going in to check on those supplies as frequently. And while they're there to freshen up the restroom and pick up and clean up any messes. So there is a yin and a yang to this, but you have to provide adequate supplies for to last from one cleaning to the next. If that's a 24-hour period, then you have to have supplies that last at least 24 hours.
Okay, go
Next-
on. I mean,
next-
I know your list of Bill of Rights hadn't ended yet.
Nope. Next on the list is people don't want to set their purse, their briefcase, their backpack, suitcase, whatever on the floor. So they should have a right to shelves or hooks for those items, jacket on the back of the stall door, a shelf there for a woman to put her purse. I've even seen these restroom stalls that have a little shelf there that you could, and a seat belt, you can set a baby up there.
Oh my goodness. Well, I suppose that's probably something, but for me as a guy, I mean, hey, you travel in and out of airports or it doesn't really matter where, and you've got your briefcase or you've got your overnight bag. If I got a backpack on, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
hey guys, I gotta tell you, don't put that briefcase down there while you take a leak. Hey, I mean, I said it, okay, all right. But I mean, and these shelves here that we see in this picture, they're just not big enough.
Oh, you might be able to put your cell phone up there, but it doesn't hold very much, but it should be
that's a whole nother subject. We don't want to talk about the cell phone at the urinal. Come on, Darrell.
Well, what better time to check your emails?
Oh, now come on, wait a minute. This is a family show, man.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so
Okay.
keep on going.
And this next one is a picture of a diaper changing table, and you'll see there that this one is.
Okay, so if we've got this area that we're talking about, I call it baby changing. Darrell calls it a diaper changing area. I just got through putting one of these in our new demonstration restroom, and one of the things I noticed is it had a place for the a bag, and it also had a cover for the table. But I think you found something that was a little different.
Yeah, it's disinfectant wipes, and this is another item. Whenever I talked about adequate supplies, you need your cleaning staff needs to check and replenish these supplies daily. And but there's it's not visible in this photo, but there was a warning on this that's not intended for use on skin. So it's strictly to disinfect that surface before the baby gets laid down and buckled in. And you have to have something there because, just the nature of diaper changing, there could wind up being fecal matter on these tables. There could be urine. So the next person that comes along, should have the right to a safe, clean, disinfected surface that their baby lays on.
Well, you're talking processed again, and I'm gonna hit on this because, folks, I gotta tell you, if you're the technician and your responsibility is that restroom, you have to open these up and you have to process that area because not all of these changing stations have the proper wipes. And even if they do, people aren't always using them correctly. And I think you made a differentiation between there's wipes for the skin and there's wipes for the surface. And we have to be very careful.
Yes. And the next right that we want to talk about is that your patrons have a right to not get a disease. And, I haven't talked about those, but chlamydia is a venereal disease that is, very prevalent in a lot of areas of the country. There are venereal diseases, but also the common sorts of things like staph. And there's just a whole host of things that live in restrooms and on surfaces. But your patron should have a right to not get any of those diseases by using your restrooms.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about those a little later in the show this afternoon. But I mean, this is this is what you hit on every time. And so, folks, stay tuned. He's going to get you here in a minute. So tell me, is there any more on your list of Bill of Rights? I mean, when does this thing stop?
Well, we're there at the end, and it's called your patrons have a right to the best seat in the house. And doesn't have to be a gold throne like this one, but, just a safe, clean, disinfected surface to use when they need it.
Okay, wait a minute, Darrell. I'm afraid that my audience is going to start saying, Darrell said I have the right to a gold throne. You know what? If you find a gold throne, don't call me. I'm not going to come and process that gold throne. But give me a picture. I'd like to see it. No, but I get what you're talking about. You know, we do have the right to use a safe environment, and especially if this is a place where people are expecting me to do business. And I think that's what most of us are complaining about. You know, if you expect me to patronize your facility, this is my bill of rights to your facility. I don't care what I'm doing. If I'm shopping for an RV or whether I'm shopping for a motorcycle or eating out, I still have that right.
And don't forget about the employees' rights, you know, to a safe, clean restroom as well. You know, I think that your staff, along with those visitors, all have a right to the same safe, clean, disinfected restrooms.
I totally agree with you, Darrell. So how do we make this? I don't know. How do we give people the Bill of Rights then?
Well, one of the things, and you know, it could be the right to have hands-free, touch-free surfaces in restrooms, and I think that's what I want to talk about next. Is, you know, we've seen the battery-powered things like toilet and urinal flushers, the battery-powered faucets that turn the water on and off for us, and it's at the right temperature. And another one that, you know, people talk about using, you know, there's a debate going on about toilet seat covers, and I just don't like the paper toilet seat covers. One time my wife went into the restroom with my 3-year-old granddaughter, and she asked grandma for one of those horseshoe things, and my wife was looking at her and saying, "What?" And she pointed up to the toilet seat covers. She called it a horseshoe. Uh-huh. And so, you know, they start young, and they.
Well, and I think that's the difference between these paper ones that we see that are on the wall, and I think there's all kinds of different covers that are out there. I've seen people just take toilet paper and put it on the toilet seat. But what you're talking about are the ones that are on the wall, but there's newer ones out there.
Yeah, there's actually one that's an automatic battery-powered dispenser that feeds a fresh plastic toilet seat sleeve that rotates around, and the one part of it picks up the soiled cover and winds it up inside of a cover, while the other one is dispensing a fresh one. And no, they don't just keep going around in a big circle. You know, so this is something else that in the processing of these restrooms, your employees need to take care of and keep them full. Next one is hands-free trash receptacles. I believe that, you know, the ones with a real stiff spring door in the front, those are not advisable for restrooms. They should have an open top to them, or one of those drop lids that the weight of a wet paper towel, that things would drop right on down. Another one in the ladies' restrooms is these sanitary napkin disposal containers. You'll see them on the floor, and but they should have a sort of a swing lid to them that is relatively hands touch free. But you know, these receptacles, you know, you don't see them in all restrooms, and if you don't provide for disposal of these products, then it's going to make for a dissatisfied patron. And so, first of all, provide them, but secondly, to make sure that they get processed daily, because they can be a source of odors if they're not processed correctly. Next is touch-free paper towels dispensers. There's a debate goes on about whether it should be electric blowers, hand dryers, or paper towels. I think I come down on the side of paper towels. I think electric blowers picks up that bacteria that I talked about earlier that's on the floor and on walls and what have you, and sucks it right through that intake motor and then blows it out on your freshly washed hands. So
I couldn't agree with you more, Darrell. You know, blowers just move the dirt around a lot, you know, give it heat and move it around. And the thing about it is that people don't sanitize their hands. They don't wash their hands well enough. And the other thing is we've got so many doors on restrooms. How do I touch the door and get out? And that's where I use the paper towel to leave. But then, of course, you've got the new restrooms and that are coming out with no doors. They got kind of the maze entrance.
Yeah, you'll see them in certainly in airports and in high traffic areas like a stadium. You know, and if you're in the at a stage where you're involved in new construction or in remodeling, you really should look at removing the doors from your restrooms, because like you said, after you've washed your hands and you know, you get to the door and here's a door handle that you have to touch. There's one that that has a spray that sprays disinfectant down the door handle. The other ones is the door openers, you know, something on the floor that you use the toe of your shoe to open the door with. So people are always confronted with, how do I get out of here? And if you don't take a paper towel with you, then you know, you're left with just grabbing the grungy door handle to get out.
Okay, so we've covered the list of the Bill of Rights. We've covered the areas that we can do to help make the Bill of Rights, real. But the technician has to go in and still service the restroom. And there's hot zones that you've talked about. So why are we still finding unsanitary bathrooms?
Well, it goes back to this decaying bacteria that a lot of times goes uncleaned, unremoved. And here we have a picture of the bottom of a urinal. And what you're seeing there is a combination of probably bowl cleaners and urine and water. And it winds up being a thick green gunky mixture. It's a biofilm, and you know, it needs to be removed daily so that you don't have these unsightly cleaning problems. But
well, and
a source of odor.
And this is happening, Darrell, because if we look at this is underneath the urinal. This is not on the front of it. What's happening is the people are cleaning these surfaces by hand with all of their cleaners and their tools. And what's going on is they're just not actually getting to this area ever, but everything else is. And you won't find this just on the bottom of a urinal. Look at a toilet that's bolted to the wall, or look at the bottom of any sink. Now, hey, folks, if you're going to go do this, put on your nitrile gloves before you go start touching these areas. But I'm saying there's three major areas in the restroom that I can always find these kind of things if they're doing hands cleaning.
Right, and one that I don't mention here, but to have just a pocket like a makeup mirror, and you can look underneath the rim of your toilets, and you can see something similar under the rim on the inside of the bowl. And so you need to remove that on a routine basis, because you know it does harbor bacteria. And one of the things that I always say is that about germs is that we don't feed them and we don't move them around. We should remove them, but not just move them around from one area of the restroom to another. You haven't gotten rid of the problem. All you've done is move it.
Well, this goes back to what you said earlier, pH and physical removal. We're not moving it, we're not feeding them, we're actually removing it. And that's where I come into the whole picture. I always start talking when I teach class. This isn't about the hand tools. Those are old, archaic. I use them if I have to, but I'm a big proponent of the no-touch systems, because it gets to these areas that people don't want to bend down and get to.
Right, and just like I talked earlier about the patrons of your restrooms, don't want to touch germy surfaces. Well, neither do your staff. So, this is a good place to talk about these no-touch cleaning systems. And here's photos of a couple of those. And the idea is that, you're physically removing the biofilm daily, and you're actually, instead of just removing them around the restroom, that you're actually removing them, because these systems, after things wind up on the floor, you end up with a vacuum tool. And so again, you're removing the contaminated water that contains all these germs and bacteria that you have washed from the surfaces to the floor and then vacuumed up. And that means that the germs leave when the unit leaves the restroom, because they're in the soil tank that picks up that soil water.
So if we have to do it by hand, we can remove the germs with microfiber wipers. The microfiber wipers are going to be better than a cloth or a brush, that we've typically been using. But always use your color-coded microfiber wipers when you're in there. I know we're showing a picture of one. I had a guy in here yesterday that was talking about it. And I always remind them, red is what we want to use in the restroom. I know we're showing you a picture of a blue one, but hey, color code your microfiber wipers to what you're trying to do. This is what's going to remove that stuff from that, if I've got to use a hand tool.
Exactly. And microfiber does a much better job of attacking that biofilm on a daily basis. But we really need to get in this microbiologist's vision, and to be able to see the germs and the bacteria on these surfaces. And one of my pet peeves is that employees don't go in when they clean the stall, that you'll see them open the door to the stall and push it back against the stall wall, and then they'll process the toilet, and they'll check the toilet paper and maybe the women's disposal unit on the floor, and then they go to the next stall. They don't go inside, turn around, close the door, and then see the latch that people have to touch wherever we talked about doors on restrooms that we need to remove them. Well, we're not going to remove them on stalls. They're there for the privacy of the person, right, but you still have to touch that germy door latch.
So this is where I always talk to people is, this is the germiest, filthiest, nastiest, gross, well, you get the picture. That right there, that latch is the worst area, simply because we're not processing it.
Exactly. And another one that is a source of odors is the grout in the floors. People think that grout is hard like that ceramic tile is, but it's not. It's sand, and it's very porous. And so you wind up getting soils down in there. It could be uric soils from urine, but it's most likely
a
dirty mop.
Folks, I know that we've kind of went a long time here. We're well over the time that we normally do, but this is a subject that gets, like we said, 50% of the complaints. It's a small area of the room, but you can see how involved it gets. So, Darrell, for the audience, let's wrap this up and kind of give them, I know what we should do. What are we trying to do in the restroom? And let's wrap this up for them.
Yeah. You're really selling your public, your employees, on the idea that we provide clean and sanitary restrooms. By reducing or eliminating these unsanitary restrooms, an employer or a building owner will meet their customer expectations. They'll improve their employee attendance, improve the employee morale and productivity, and they'll really make people smile when they have to use your restroom, because it wasn't a bad experience, it was a good experience.
Now, I can't tell you that I'm going to do this, but when I saw this on your dialogue for today, Darrell, I've seen you smile at me for a number of years, and I just put in my new restroom facility here for demonstrations. I'm not going to put your picture on the toilet lid. I didn't mean that. But I'm going to have to find me a decal and put a smiley face on there. I mean, when I saw this, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to have to do that. You know, Darrell, do you have one line statement for us here at the end?
Well, in closing, I would just say that, you know, this is in the infection prevention arena, and it's something that we always have to use, restrooms. And so, you know, why not, by providing a safe, clean, disinfected restroom, reduce those phone calls that you get, and actually make people smile because it was a good experience in the restroom today.
I know we said that this would be entertaining at times. Well, folks, we left you with a smiling toilet for the day. Anyway, go find out if your toilet's smiling back at you. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that one. Anyway, I don't think that we've had any questions today, but if you do have some questions and you're watching this on the recorded version, please leave them in the comments area right underneath the video. We've had some people do that. We've answered some great questions over the course of our 21 shows now. Now, if you're looking for one of my classes, go to the gym website. That is gymsupply.net. You're going to find the education button. Click on that. You can go to the live classes. We've got it all structured there for you. You're definitely going to find one of our live classes and the schedule. Go to my Facebook page. I know I covered up my head a little bit ago, but here it is. It's nice and shiny. Like my page, share it. If you need more information, go to beyondcleanwithdave.com. You can check out the archive. You can check out the upcoming speakers. You can look at the bios and stuff of the past speakers like Darrell today. You can make sure you have the information there that you can contact them. Now, next Friday, I'm going to be talking with Brett Boucher. He's going to be talking to us about protecting floor surfaces, indoor air quality, and budgets. I didn't think you probably figured all of those would go together, but Brett's going to talk to us about that. So I guess until next Friday at 1 p.m. Friday afternoon, right here live from Orlando, I'm Dave Thompson. Keep changing your future. Keep those changes healthy, positive, and proactive. And remember my mantra, I am a janitor and I save lives. Thanks for watching.
You have been listening to Beyond Clean with Dave and his guest. Sharing what you learn with others is what turns knowledge into professional development. Live classes are hosted each week at one or more of our 4 locations in Central Florida. Remember, janitors save lives. Be sure to put us on your schedule to watch next week as we present another broadcast of Beyond Clean with Dave.